The Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. My name is Joni Siegel. I'm the host for this podcast and co-founder. My husband is co-founder of the podcast. If you have a story that you'd like to share with us, please reach out. Our email is theaddictionpodcast@yahoo.com, or you can just go to our website and send us a form there requesting that you be on the podcast. Our website, our website is theaddictionpodcast.com. Today's episode is episode number 328. And today we have an interview. But before I get into that, just a reminder to please subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you would be so kind as to give us a 5-star review, then when people need help in the area of addiction, they will find us. Also, please check out our YouTube channel, subscribe to our channel, and once again, give our videos a thumbs up so that people will find us when they need help. Excuse me, just getting over allergies here. Okay, so today we have an interview with a woman named Diane Urban. And Diane is the founder of APALD, A-P-A-L-D, Association of People Against Lethal Drugs. She established APALD as a result of losing her son, Jordan Garmatter, to illicit fentanyl on April 6th, 2019. I'm going to read in her words now. My son suffered from substance use disorder. He was drug-free for 8 months when he developed a wisdom tooth growing in the wrong way. His face was swollen and in pain. He worked part-time and only had Medicaid insurance, so he couldn't get into a dentist for 2 weeks out. Jordan continued to work with his extreme pain, but with 1 week left to see the dentist, he made the mistake of going to get drugs to ease his pain. What he got was almost 100% fentanyl. It killed him. When Diane got the toxicology report and found out it was fentanyl, she discovered that it comes from China, then to Mexico and across the borders. So she decided to do something about it. She founded APALD. They have rallies, and by this time, they will have had their 3rd annual rally. The message is to bring awareness of illicit fentanyl, and it's the leading cause of death in Americans age 18 to 45. Without further ado, let's talk to Diane Urban. So, Diane Urban, thank you so much for being willing to be on the podcast today and telling us your story and Jordan's story.
Thank you very much for having me. Let me speak.
Absolutely. Diane, tell us just a little bit about Jordan and, his childhood. I know he had a drug habit at one point. Kind of tell us what led up to that.
I'm not really sure entirely what led up to it. I mean, we've talked about it before he died, of course. He came to me with his drug addiction problem, and he didn't believe that he could get addicted. He just started experimenting with, drugs, pot, cocaine, and, he just didn't see like he could get addicted to it.
And how old was he when he came to you?
He was probably about 20, 21.
Okay.
So he didn't start using until, was out of the house after school. So, okay. But he came to me and, I got him detox and rehab because he ended up getting addicted to heroin. And so heroin is a very hard, lethal drug to just stop using. I know there's a lot of mental illness issues, and, both have the sides of the family. So I think there's some underlying issues there, but, basically, I mean, he was a wonderful person that just got caught up into something that got caught, that took a hold of him, and he was at his wit's end on how to, to get help.
But he came to you for help, and you got him help,
yeah.
Right?
And once he admitted to his addiction and he came to me and, told me what was going on, I mean, he was all in for recovery and to doing what it takes, to get clean and, to live a good life.
Right.
Having said that, my son never got into trouble, even when he was on drugs. He always worked full time. You would never know it. I mean, I didn't know it.
Right. They call that, I think, a functioning addict.
Yeah. just like functioning, alcoholics, functioning addict.
Exactly.
So, but he grew up as a wonderful child, well liked and loved by everyone. Anyone that ever met Jordan either liked or loved him a whole lot because he just was so giving and he had such a good heart and a wonderful sense of humor. And he was really big into sports. And so he was actually an aspiring recording artist. So
that's right. I read that. He had written a couple songs.
Yeah, and he had one professionally recorded, and it was called Nightmare. And what it was depicted of between him and like what he called the Reaper, which was his drug addiction that he just couldn't, it just was constantly, after he was trying to get away from it, as best he could. And so it was kind of it was a good song, but it was also heartbreaking because you could feel what he's going through.
Right.
But we did get him help, and he did get clean. He relapsed one time after a few months and got right back on the wagon and, was doing great. And he was clean, I think, for almost 8 months when he developed a severe wisdom tooth issue. And he was working part-time at the time and could only afford, to get Medicaid insurance. So if you live around me, there's not very many clinics that takes dentists that takes Medicaid patients. So he had to wait for 2 weeks out to get his swollen face, and tooth pulled out,
Yeah.
So, but he worked and he went through the pain with the swollen face for a week. And the night before he died, he reached out, to drugs to get what he thought was his choice of drugs to help ease his pain. But what he got was fentanyl, enough to kill 8 people in his system. And I had read his phone the next day after he died, and the police left that one of his last texts he sent before he died was his best friend had got on, his phone and said, "Hey, do you want to play Xbox?" And he said, "No, this tooth pain is melting my soul away." And so he was going through some excruciating pain. I mean, it was visible. And but so he made that one wrong choice and that one bad decision, and made the choice to go back to drug and cause a possible relapse or whatever. But instead, he just died instantly because of, all that fentanyl in there.
I'm so sorry for your loss. Yeah. It's devastating.
In 2 days, it'll be 4 years that he's been gone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I had, people might think that, 1 year goes by, 2 years goes by, 3 years go by, that it gets easier, but it doesn't. I mean, I woke up this morning and it was first thing on top of my mind was that, my God, it's almost been 4 years and, it's really rough. It's really rough.
I can only imagine. I have 2 boys. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So he didn't die of an overdose. And we've made this point several times recently on the podcast. He did not die of an overdose. There is a tendency on the part of some individuals who should be perhaps taking more responsibility for this. And I'm talking about government individuals who like to say that, this is just another overdose. It's not an overdose. It's murder. It's poisoning.
It is.
There's no difference in if I gave you a drink with arsenic in it. There's no difference. Yet it doesn't quite get treated that way.
No. I first started as a result of my son's death. Once I got the toxicology report back and I saw the word fentanyl, because I honestly thought that maybe he did overdose.
Right.
Because, he had relapsed after being clean 8 months and, who knows, maybe he took too much,
And he was in a lot of pain. So it would have been understandable.
So I looked at that word fentanyl, the number one cause of, this death and on his certificate. And I'm like, what is fentanyl? And so the first thing I did was went to the internet and I looked it up and I looked at, and I learned about fentanyl and how, it's an illicit drug that's, made in China for the most part. They send it to Mexico, the final ingredient, they mix it all up there, then it crosses our borders. And I got really, really, really angry. And so about 4 or 5 months into the loss of Jordan, I decided to, just at the time, just start a Facebook group because I thought I got to do something and, warn people because, this could happen to anyone that happens to have a relapse or, just want to try a drug for the first time. I mean, it's it could kill you one try and you can die.
Right.
So then I started my Facebook group, just family and friends, and then it expanded and got bigger. And, we started having these nationwide rallies once a year. And so now we're a 501c3 nonprofit. And we try to do everything we can to bring awareness to fentanyl. But I started using that word fentanyl poisoning way back when my son died, when I found out what it was. It was no more accidental overdose.
Mm-mm.
it was fentanyl poisoning at the very least.
Just out of curiosity, did his death certificate say overdose or did it say fentanyl poisoning?
No, it said overdose on the line, but then below it, the whoever did the certificate wrote in there, handwritten in there, accidental overdose in parentheses. It was handwritten in, accidental overdose.
Sometimes the hardest thing about getting someone into recovery is getting them to agree to treatment. Bobby Newman, a certified drug counselor with 30 years experience and an over 85% success rate as an interventionist, has created a series of 12 videos that you can use right now to learn every step to get your loved one to agree to treatment. Call 866-989-4499 today and say the word podcast to get a 10% discount. Or go to newmaninterventions.com and type in the word podcast for a 10% discount. This service comes with a free 1-hour consultation with Bobby. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the word they use, I guess, mostly around my area is accidental overdose, which implies that my son sat there just doing, so much drugs that he just, died. And that's not what happened.
No.
My son had plans the next day. He had plans. There was no way he wanted to die.
Right. Right. He wanted to handle the pain, which I understand.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a legal recourse to do that. So I get that. But the fact that it's labeled as an overdose it's just wrong and it's disrespectful. It's poisoning. And I realize I'm preaching to the choir, but I watched a hearing on one of the committees, the government committees in DC. And, there were individuals there who kept saying, oh yeah, overdose, it's a big problem and addiction. That's not what this is. That's not what you're talking about. And like I say, I'm preaching to the choir. You know more about it than I do.
Oh yeah. You'd be surprised. I just went and visited an organization locally with me and, they don't approve, they don't believe in, approaching it directly, in the schools by, talking about fentanyl poisoning and how you could lose your life because they think it might traumatize the teenagers.
Well, okay. But if it traumatizes them to the point where they don't buy a Percocet or a Xanax off of TikTok or Snapchat, good thing.
Well, their evidence is based off of how they gather their studies. It was based on the year 2017.
Oh.
So their motto was too good to use drug. That's what they try to preach to these high schoolers instead of, warning them of how lethal and dangerous drugs are. So that's what we're facing, and that's one thing I'm going to, work on in the fall in my own area in Ohio is trying to get in the schools and explain, the real story with, drugs and, it can be very toxic and they need I think our high school children need to be scared.
Yes, I agree. You experiment, you can die.
Yeah. Back in my day when I was younger, way younger, it was like you wouldn't want to try drugs because you might become addicted.
Right.
But now, you try it and, you could just die right there. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about your organization. Tell us the name and what you guys are doing.
Okay. I founded APALD, and APALD stands for Association of People Against Lethal Drugs. I founded the group because of my son's death, and I wanted to bring awareness. What we're mostly known for right now is our nationwide rallies. We're going on to have our third nationwide rallies this Saturday, May 6th. Right now, we have 30 cities across America all rallying on the same day to bring awareness to illicit fentanyl and also to secure our border. And so we got people from Sacramento, California to Niagara Falls, New York, and everywhere in between. We're all going to be doing it the same day.
May 6th, right?
Yeah, it's on a Saturday.
Okay.
It was the first time we did it on a Saturday because a lot of people said they had to work. And so we decided to go with the weekend date this year on a Saturday. So we're really excited. It's a lot going on. It's been very, very busy. I
would imagine that there are way more people experiencing the loss of kids than most people are aware of.
Yeah. Yes. And then there's so many that's, in my group now that I know of that, they've died and their grandparents are raising their kids now. So it's like, the mother and father's out of the picture. They both used together and died, or one died and one's gone. So it's grandparents raising, their children's kids. And it's a whole stressor on the whole family. I mean, they're going through a loss and they have to raise, young children. And yeah, there's just so much loss. I mean, people look at the numbers and say like, okay, we lost 107,000 people last year to drugs, of which probably 75-80% were fentanyl related.
Right.
So if one person dies, that affects the mother, the father, the grandparents, the brothers, the sisters, the aunts, the cousins. I mean, it's a ripple effect. It
Right.
destroys families and lives, and it's horrible.
Yep.
And so I want no one to ever have to go through that. So this is what I do. I do this to help because if I save one person, I mean, or a year, I mean,
You are listening to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. For more information on the podcast or to reach out if you have a story you would like to share with us, go to our Facebook page by the same name, or you can email us at theaddictionpodcast@yahoo.com, or go to our website, theaddictionpodcast.com, or call us at 727-314-7080. And please remember to subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a 5-star review. And I appreciate it because I know that, with the loss of Jordan, it would be another option for you to just give in to the grief and want to close down. And the fact that instead you are, you have this organization and you are all about getting out there and educating people and, excuse my bad word, but kicking butt and taking names. And that's really, I think, what is needed more than anything else right now.
Yeah, it really is. We need more people. I mean, there are, some other groups out there like-minded, like APALD, but, you would think with all the hundreds of thousands of people that die, I mean, there'd be more people involved, but I just think it's too much for people to do. They go through grief and they get stuck in it and they just can't find their way out,
Yeah.
And I understand that. I mean, everybody's different. I'm not sure why God made me this way. And, I can, get past the pain, for the most part and push forward to help. But I don't know. This is where I landed in life.
Exactly. And I think it's healthier. I think what you do is healthier. Diane, right before we went live today we're not live, but right before we recorded today, you sent me a song. Tell us about that song. How did that song come about?
Oh my God, that song has been in the works for months. One of my members, a great member, she's been a member of APALD, so I think since pretty much day one, Robin Goldentrotter. She has a friend of hers whose name's Bruce James. And he's a recording artist and he works with this gospel singer guy. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name, but I think it's attached to the video is the name of the song.
Jozu, maybe? I saw it, but I didn't get it either.
I don't want to try to hack it, so I didn't try. But anyway, I sent you the link. But yeah, he got with me, Bruce James did, because he's Robin's friend. And he said, hey, we had a video that we made during the COVID to recognize our, people who's out there that's, died and, give hope to, what we're going through in the pandemic where people were dying and, prices were going up and everybody was like, there was uncertainty.
Right.
So what he wanted to do was like, reframe this to the fentanyl crisis. And so what he did was he made a special video, just with this song. And it talks about loss and hope.
Right.
Because, like I told him, right now, I said, us people, fighting this fight, we don't have much hope. I mean, it's hard to even get acknowledgement, but, have hope. So what the video is about, it's about life, it's about loss, and it's about hope for what we could possibly do ahead. And it's a tribute, to the, just like 112 or 104 angels, that's lost, that they're played throughout the video.
Yep.
But it's a very powerful song. I mean, I watch it and I see all those faces, and then, there's other video of messaging in between there. And it's just all about, where we're at right now, and we need, some action in America, like right away.
Yep.
So we can have hope and, our families can, grow together and be happy. And, these drugs will be off our streets. And, they'll probably never be off our streets, but, there's so many drugs on our streets now with all, the cartels and, coming across our points of entry, our borders, north and south, east and west. So, but yeah, nonetheless, it's a beautiful song. And I would encourage, anyone to please watch it and share it because it's just what it's hard to explain unless you see it. So I would encourage you to hopefully you have time to watch it later.
And no, I watched it. I definitely watched it. And I'm going to put the link in the show notes for this particular episode because I think it's very impactful. It's a beautiful song. The singers are wonderful. And the photographs of the kids and the young people, not just kids, but the young people who have died is very impactful. So you have your rally. Do you also do a rally in Washington, or are these mostly state rallies?
I do mine and just all over the United States. So like I said, we have and this year on May 6th, we have California, New York, Texas, Indiana, Florida, Kansas, Washington, all these states are lined up. We don't go to Washington, D.C. We might someday, but we don't right now. Now there's another group out there. They go one time a year to D.C. For their just one big rally a year. But I spread mine out over the country because, some people can't afford to go to the D.C. one every year.
Right.
And it means a lot to people to be in their hometown and have a rally and stand out there, on the streets holding their signs high, fentanyl poisoning, not an overdose, stop fentanyl deaths,
Yep.
And, the people that show up these rallies are people that the Narcan suppliers show up to our rally. We have recovery centers show up to our rallies with tables of their information. Rehab and detox centers, they're there to hand out their resources and information. So it's a community event, based, for each individual community across America on that day.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel good to get out there. And it does make you feel good when you're out there, and the news crew comes and they get you on tape and you get to tell your story. And so it really helps.
Well, it gives you a voice, which is what we're doing with the podcast. We want to give you a voice because people need to listen. People need to learn from you. And we appreciate what you do so very much. Diane, if you had a message to give to our listeners, and we from what we know, we have addicts in recovery. We likely have people who are addicted as we speak, but we also know that we have a lot of family and friends of people who are addicted. If you could give them just one message on this topic, what would you want to say?
I would say that everyone should have Narcan in their house. Everyone should carry Narcan in their car. Just because, first of all, no matter where you go today, someone could be overdosing somewhere and you could save a life, possibly. I would say get involved. When someone has a rally in your town, if you don't want to hold one, get involved with your community, go up there, even if you didn't per se lose someone like your child. It could be anybody's child. So get involved, with your community events, that pertains to this. So, more people will gather to know it's just not just about this, maybe like a small town, like I live in a very small town where maybe like 10 or 20 people have lost their life to fentanyl. I live in an extremely small town, but some of the bigger town, you want the people of the community to come together and be a part of it and be supportive. So be supportive. We're always looking for volunteers, but, however you want to volunteer on your own or whatever, but, get educated. We have information, at APALD about, the dangers of fentanyl. We, have statistical information. We have, school posters you could put up in, in your schools. So yeah, just education.
Right. Diane, say the website. Say what your website is.
Our website is weareappald.org. So that's WEAREAPALD.org.
Okay. And if someone wanted to reach out to you, they could reach out to you through the website, right?
Yep.
Diane, thank you for what you're doing. Once again, I'm very sorry for your loss. I can only imagine being a mom. And thank you, though, for turning your grief into something that is going to save lives. I know it saves lives. You may not hear about them all, but I know it does.
Yeah, I don't hear about it, but that's okay. This is my path. I'll be doing, probably for the rest of my duration, in life. So doing what I can.
Thank you. And thanks for talking to us today and telling us about it.
And thank you very much. And for also posting that link to the video.
Absolutely. I hope you enjoyed the interview. While this interview is, it's now after the rally that occurred on May 6th, we will put up some photos of those rallies. And we did let you know about it beforehand, and we will keep you posted as to what happens there. Diane is hoping that she can get in front of Congress, and I hope the same thing. So thank you for listening. We'll be back again with another interview.
You have been listening to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. For more information, reach out to us on Facebook or go to www.theaddictionpodcast.com. Our email is theaddictionpodcast@yahoo.com.